Hey guys, check it out. Doing one of these videos. New year, new house, new video topics. I'm gonna talk about movies sometimes. Upon its 1998 release, numerous entertainment publications and media outlets invited groups of World War II veterans to screenings of Saving Private Ryan. That's kind of fucked up. Not that it's their fault, or anyone's for that matter. Steven Spielberg had just spent an entire press junket talking about how the movie was for the veterans. And I think he meant every word. But I mean, come on. Anybody who's ever seen the movie could see that, yeah, it could be pretty hard to watch. Now, I love Saving Private Ryan. Of course I do. I'm a proud, red-blooded American. I love all of Tom Hanks' movies. But also like Jesus, kinda, you know? And guess what? Turns out it was pretty hard to watch. Within 2 weeks of its release, the Department of Veteran Affairs had to set up a dedicated phone line just for people who struggled with this movie. And you're probably sitting there thinking, well, yeah, and I know exactly what did it. But I'm here to tell you, oh, it goes way deeper than that. Darker even. So the movie starts out with old Matt Damon. Oh shit, spoilers I guess for 1999 Best Picture nominee Saving Private Ryan. Fuck Shakespeare in Love. So old Matt Damon's out at the Normandy American Cemetery with his big old family. He walks to find a specific headstone, collapses, scaring the shit out of his family, and we zoom slowly into his face before hard cutting to the beat. Right from the jump, the realism that will make this film iconic is immediately apparent. We've got a shaking hand, seasick soldiers throwing up in the boat, gross, terrified man praying, all capped off with this gem. The next 25 minutes is a tight, visceral, unflinching look at the absolute horrors and chaos of D-Day. It's the part when most people who didn't finish the movie walked out, and it single-handedly changed how Hollywood depicted warfare. But that's all been talked to death, so I'm moving on. Because as PTSD-inducing as this sequence seems to be, it's only the amuse-bouche of trauma that this film is serving out. In the post-battle quiet, we do this really long swoop over to focus in on one specific soldier laying face down on the bad side of the beach. This poor fella S. Ryan. Cut to this woman, who explains to us that S. Ryan is one of 4 Ryan brothers in the war, 2 of which are KIA and D-Day, with a 3rd being killed last week. What's more, the final remaining brother is a paratrooper lost somewhere in Normandy. So one-armed Bryan Cranston, looking swole, takes this to his superiors with the suggestion that the US owes it to the family to try saving Private Ryan. Cheers. I should not have done that with actual whiskey. But he meets opposition from this stern officer who explains,
there is no way you can know where in the hell he was dropped. In fact, he's probably KIA. And frankly, sir, we go sending some sort of rescue mission. They're gonna be KIA too.
But the big man overrules him and orders that a rescue party be sent. So Captain Tom Hanks survives D-Day, more spoilers, and in the days since have been doing all these dangerous missions, losing men the entire way.
35 dead, times 2 wounded.
It was a tough assignment, that's why you got it. I've got another one for you. Yes, sir.
Saddle up, Captain Hanks. You're going on a scavenger hunt. The old guy in the tent makes Tom pick a small squad and set off to find the last remaining Ryan brother. Only a few minutes into the trip, we've got this guy, who will be henceforth known as the guy who hates Matt Damon, parroting the concerns of the head office. It's almost like it's the moral question at the core of the whole movie or something.
You want to explain the math of this to me? I mean, where's the sense in risking the lives of the 8 of us to save one guy?
In response, Captain Hanks makes the claim that he believes this is the right thing to do, but clearly frames it more because it's the orders they were given and less about the tragedy around the Ryan family.
Let's say you weren't a captain, or maybe I was a major. What would you say then?
I say this is an excellent mission, sir, with an extremely valuable objective, sir. Moreover, I feel heartfelt sorrow for the mother of Private James Ryan, and I'm willing to lay down my life and the lives of my men, especially you, Rydman, to ease her suffering.
Then we get this badass transition. They made it to Newville, where hopefully Paul Giamatti knows where Matt Damon is. He doesn't. And we get this line.
Oh, where am I going to work, Captain?
In the process of making it through town, they run into this French family who tries to give them their daughter, which for some reason Vin Diesel thinks is a good idea. And now, they make it out of the situation because their sniper's a badass. But old Dom Toretto doesn't, and it's unpleasant. From the moment the bullet hits him, we see him in these increasingly tight, intimate shots, often focusing on only a small portion of him as we experience this with him. When we do catch him in a wide shot, it's as this out-of-focus slice in the foreground of a shot, focused on the rest of the squad. It really drives home the helplessness of it all as he lays there and bleeds out in the street. I mean, just look at this shot.
It's to my dad. It's got blood on it.
Ugh, you know? And when it's finally over, when we finally get a moment of calm, this is how we leave him.
Fuck Ryan.
So they keep moving, wander into a building, scare a bunch of Nazis, and meet Ted Danson. This has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but I love Ted Danson. Dude, there's a scene in this movie that has Tom Hanks, Ted Danson, and Nathan Fillion in the same shot. This really is a great movie. Moving on. So having not found their man, Hanks and company spend the night in a church before moving on to the next town. While they rest, we get a lot of humanizing insight into how everybody is coping. And we get this great conversation between Captain Hanks and Tom Sizemore about the toll of leadership and how he justifies the losses under his command.
When you end up killing one of your men, you see, you tell yourself, it happened so you could save the lives of 2 or 3 or 10 others. So you rationalize making the choice between the mission and the men.
Except this time the mission is man.
This brings about another questioning of the ethical validity of their current mission, but this time the captain's opinion is far less cut and dry.
This Ryan better be worth it. Because the truth is, I wouldn't trade 10 Ryans for 1 Vecchio or 1 Caparzo.
The next day, after a status update with a pilot clearly struggling from being the only survivor of a plane crash caused by ridiculous measures to protect a single brigadier general.
All that for a general? 1 man.
A lot of that going around.
Fubar.
Fubar.
They luck into getting a read on Ryan's location from my favorite deaf guy. Oh! On the way, of course, the Germans can't make anything easy. Our crew come across a machine gun nest. Captain Hanks decides they should take it, which they successfully do, but the doc gets it. And once again, it is rough. The moment he realizes he's shot through the liver, knowing precisely what that means as a medic is deeply upsetting to watch.
God, my liver!
I swear, dude, nobody in this thing goes out peacefully. All right, we're almost there. Let's get through this. In the wake of losing the doc, comboed with the fact that the captain won't let them murder this German soldier, the guy who hates Matt Damon decides he's done with this and he's going back to the war. A decision that, escalates a bit.
I'm gonna shoot you in your big goddamn mouth!
But the captain ain't Tom Hanks for nothing, and he diffuses the situation, all the while cutting to the soul of the moral conflict.
Mike,
I'm
what's
waiting.
the pool on me up to right now? 300? I'm a school teacher. Back home, and I tell people what I do for a living. They think, well, that figures. But over here, it's, so I guess I've changed some. Sometimes I wonder if I've changed so much, my wife is even going to recognize me whenever it is I get back to her, and how I'll ever be able to tell her about days like today.
Now, I want us to pay close attention to this, because in a lot of ways, this is the emotional climax of the film, at least in regards to this ethical question. And based on our experience with film, plus the fact that this guy's played by Tom Hanks, for Christ's sakes, we can expect that this speech from the captain, the main character, the voice of authority that has led us here, will tell us what the film ultimately thinks.
I don't know anything about Ryan. I don't care. Man means nothing to me. It's just a name. But if going to Ramel and finding him so he can go home, if that earns me the right to get back to my wife, well, then that's my mission.
This is the moment for our protagonist to take a stand. Once and for all, take a stance on this core question of one for many, the one that everybody's been battling with since the 30-minute mark. And he does. He supports the mission. And not just for the reasons he gave earlier, not just because he's following orders, although there is some of that in there, but because this is the kind of good that, should they succeed, will help him earn the right to see his wife again, to be able to look her in the eye. Anyway, they find him.
James Francis, Ryan?
Yes, sir. How'd you guess that?
They make it to Ramel, where Damon and company are protecting this bridge. Hanks breaks the news to him and lets him know that they're here to send him home, which Damon's unsurprisingly against.
Tell her that when you found me, I was here, and I was with the only brothers that I have left, and there's no way I was gonna desert them.
This eventually leads Captain Hanks to decide to stay and defend the bridge until reinforcements come up. When the Germans get there first, these scrappy Americans duke it out. They fight hard, this guy blows himself up, and they eventually succeed in keeping the Germans at bay. But in the process of doing that, pretty much everyone dies. Sizemore dies, the sniper dies, even Tom flippin' Hanks dies. It is not a good result for our main characters. Now, I want to stop here and quickly go back to when they first found Matt Damon, and he asked this.
It doesn't make any sense, sir. Why? Why me? Why do I deserve to go?
That right there is, I think, the clearest statement of the question this movie spent the last 2 hours asking. Why does Matt Damon deserve to survive and go home when so many others have died? And the answer this movie gives you to that question is that he probably doesn't. And yet, he's one of the few who do. Saving Private Ryan is a movie about survivor's guilt. Look at this story from Matt Damon's perspective. He's out in France, just like everyone else, fighting this war. He didn't show up on the beach, but it's made clear that he too has spent the last few days experiencing the same horrifying loss of life that everyone else has. But he doesn't allow this to stop him, and he fights on. But then out of nowhere, some random captain shows up and tells him that not one, but all of his brothers are dead.
What's this all about? Ryan lost his brothers. Which one? All of them.
So not only has he outlived all of those guys on the beach, all of the Vin Diesels of the world, but also all of his brothers. And then, when he questions the captain's orders, the dude who hates him hits him with this.
Sir, what about them? I mean, there's barely hardly enough of this.
2 of our guys already died trying to find you, all right?
So, he hasn't just outlived all of these other people, but he's near directly caused the death of 2 others. Guy's been in this movie for 3.5 minutes, and he already has a 2-man death toll on him. In an effort to not further stack on the inevitable self-guilt, he decides not to leave his fellow soldiers, his brothers, and insists upon staying to fight. And then everyone dies. Not just all of his fellow soldiers, but also all the people who stayed because he refused to leave. All but 2 of them dead. But he survives. And you know who else survives? This guy.
Fuck Ryan.
Of all the people who outright believed in the mission, the only one who lived to tell the tale is this coward. And listen, I know there's a lot of nuance to this guy's storyline, and to just call him a coward is a gross oversimplification. But face it, if you forgot his name, the movie only leaves you with 2 choices to identify him. Either the translator or the coward that let Adam Goldberg get stabbed. Remember that stance Captain Hanks finally took earlier? The one that a simpler movie would have used as the ethical stance of the entire movie? He comes out in support of the mission, but only because it will allow him, earn him the right to see his wife again, which, by the way, he doesn't survive to do. Because Saving Private Ryan isn't just a movie about survivor's guilt, it's seemingly in support of it. Tom Hanks' last words, not just to Matt Damon, but his last words, period, are earn this. Not only is this an impossible task, but it removes, at least in Tom Hanks and therefore the film's eyes, any sense of ambiguity about it. There is no, it wasn't your fault. Here's the protagonist and ethical authority using his dying breath to say, your mandated survival killed my men. And then after this meme, we see that old Matt Damon is at Tom Hanks' grave, and to his wife, he says,
"Tell me I have led a good life.
Jesus Christ, Spielberg. And yeah, his wife does, but technically that's only because he told him to. It'd be one thing if he asked her, am I a good man? But he doesn't. He's not looking for an answer. No matter what she says, he will always wonder if he's earned it. The guilt will never subside. And okay, I hear you. And yeah, I know all the shit I've been talking about in this video is part of the reason Saving Private Ryan is such a great movie. But even still, I don't know. That earn this line really fucks with me. Just seems weird that in this very clearly passionate tribute to those who fought in World War II, he would include this sort of implication in a movie that he knew World War II veterans were going to see, you know? Although I did find an Atlantic article that suggests the point of the line is to force us, the civilians of the audience, to ask ourselves what we've done to earn the freedom that so many others sacrificed so dearly for, which, I mean, yeah, it's a pretty good read. But I was well into this video by the time I found it, and what am I not gonna make it? Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about Saving Private Ryan. Oh, except, you know in that church scene? What the hell's the doc talking about? First off, the best way to fall asleep is not to try to stay awake. That doesn't make any sense. But then he uses this absurd interjection to segue into talking about his mother, which, I mean, I'm fine with. You know, that's why we're here. He talks about how his mom worked late all the time, so if he wanted to talk to her, he'd have to stay up till she got home. And he wants to so bad, like, it's like the only thing he wants. So he would try his hardest to stay awake, but the harder he would try to stay awake, the quicker he'd fall asleep. And they're like, word. But then he continues to talk about how sometimes trying to stay awake, you know, that thing he just said would help you fall asleep, would work, and he wouldn't fall asleep, and he'd still be awake when his mom got home. But when she tried to talk to him, you know, that thing he just said he desperately wanted to do, he would pretend to be asleep to avoid it. Huh? That'd be like if you and I went bowling, and for the first like 6 frames, you kept throwing the ball directly into the left gutter. And so I was like, hey, pro tip, I find a great way to avoid that is to angle yourself slightly to the opposite gutter. And you were like, oh, sick, thanks. But then I was like, yeah, man, I can't tell you how many times I've done that and thrown it directly in the gutter. You'd understandably be like, fucking what? And like, it's gotta mean something, right? The movie's too good for it not to, but I just don't get it. I almost scrapped this whole survivor's guilt thing and just made a whole video about this. Seriously, if anyone out there knows what the fuck is going on here, please let me know. I've watched this movie like 5 times in the last 2 weeks, and I'm more confused about it every single time. So yeah, hope you like this video. Please let me know what you thought about this whole just sitting at a desk talking thing. Oh, we want to try some new things this year, and this is a format I definitely want to experiment with more. I'm hoping tossing some of these into the mix will help us maybe post with more regularity and like focus, I guess. I still got to figure out this whole lighting situation. Like I'm okay with this rim light, but I've just got a lamp back here, and I feel like it looks like I've just like pissed all over the bottom of my walls. I haven't done that, I swear. Okay, that's a lamp. You can't see, can you see it? Lamp, not piss. If you like this, I've got links or whatever in the description, but really just subscribe. Give us at least a few videos coming up and see if you like us. And with that, I only have to come clean about one thing. I've never seen Shakespeare in Love. I don't even really know what it's about. I'm sorry. I don't know why I lied to you. I guess I just wanted to look cool in front of you.
Scheiße! Du Arschloch!